Hi, I'm Daniel Cosentino, and I'm doing my case study on the Landless Rural Workers Movement in Brazil. The Landless Rural Workers Movement is a grassroots organization in Brazil dedicated to fighting for the rights of rural workers and the farmers. The MST was founded in the 1980s and has grown to become one of the largest and most influential rural social movements in Latin America. The organization is known for its nonviolent direct action tactics, including land occupations, road blockades, and other forms of civil disobedience. The MST works to secure land for its members, many who are landless indigenous communities, and to promote sustainable agriculture and food. The MST also advocates for education, health, housing, and rights for rural workers and farmers. The MST, or the Movement of Landless Rural Workers, is a social movement in Brazil that advocates for land reform and rural workers' rights. It was founded in 1984 by a group of rural workers who were dissatisfied with the government's land distribution policies, which they felt were inadequate and addressing the issue of landless in rural areas. The movement's early years were marked by organizing and mobilizing landless rural workers to occupy unused land in Brazil, which they have believed should be redistributed to the landless population. The first major occupation occurred in 1985, when a group of 200 families occupied an abandoned farm in the state of Parana. Over the years, the MST has grown significantly in its size and influence, becoming one of the largest movements in Brazil. Its membership has expanded from a few hundred families in the 1980s to an estimated 1.5 million people across the country today. The MST's growth can be attributed to its success in organizing and mobilizing landless workers to demand their rights, as well as its ability to form alliances with other social movements and organizations. The movement has also faced significant challenges over the years, including government repression and violence from landowners and their hired gunmen. The MST has been subject to various forms of harassment and intimidation, including threats, physical attacks, and assassinations of its members. Despite these challenges, the movement has continued to advocate for land reform and rural workers' rights, and has achieved significant gains in these areas. This is a quick video explaining more about the movement.
Brazilian MST, which is Latin America's largest popular social movement, started planning its 40th anniversary celebrations this week. In Pernambuco, our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
Brazil's Landless Rural Workers Movement, or MST, is holding annual planning meetings in 26 states this month, where thousands of delegate farmers are discussing a year-long series of events leading up to its 40th anniversary, which will take place next February.
We are going to have many activities. We are going to recover the history of all of the settlements the MST occupied during these 40 years, and we will have moments to celebrate, because remembering also means looking at where we came from. This black tarp here symbolizes this, because from below these tarp shacks, we were able to build better lives for all of the peasants who fought for the right to farmland.
According to the MST, recovering the history of the protests and land occupations which provided farmlands to over 400,000 families, along with the technical advances made by the movement in organic agriculture production, will give the next generation more tools and more knowledge to continue the struggle for agrarian reform.
As long as there is one large estate not being used productively and one landless family, the MST will continue its occupations. And we hope the next generation will always remember that this was built through a lot of struggle and a lot of people's resistance.
From the MST's Normandia Agrarian
The MST's main goal is to fight for the land reform and is to ensure the rural workers have access to land, which they believe is essential for social and economic justice. In addition to land reform, the movement also aims to promote sustainable agriculture and to improve living conditions for rural workers, including access to education and healthcare. One of the key actions that the MST takes to achieve its goals is the land occupations. The movement organizes and mobilizes landless rural workers to occupy unused and underutilized land, which they argue should be redistributed to the landless population. Another important action taken by the MST is the establishment of the agricultural settlements. These settlements are self-sustaining communities that prioritize sustainable agriculture and environmental preservation. The MST has established over 2,000 agricultural settlements in Brazil, which provides landless rural workers with a means of livelihood and promotes sustainable agriculture practices. The landless rural workers movement has faced significant opposition and resistance throughout its history. The movement's primary goal of land reform, which involves the redistribution of unused or underutilized land, has been met with resistance from powerful landowners and their allies in the government and law enforcement. One form of opposition that the MST has faced is violent repression. The movement has been subject to physical attacks, including assassinations by landowners and their hired gunmen. In some cases, the government has also used force to suppress land occupations and demonstrations organized by the MST. This violence and repression have resulted in deaths of hundreds of members over the years. In addition to physical violence, the MST has also faced legal challenges and different obstacles. The Brazilian government has been slow to implement land reform policies, and the legal system has often been used to obstruct the MST's efforts. The MST has also developed strategies to overcome legal obstacles, such as working with sympathetic lawyers and using media to publicize their cause. The MST has also sought to build alliances with other social movements and organizations, both within Brazil and internationally, in order to build support for their cause and to amplify their message by working within other groups. The MST has been able to create broader movements for social economic justice, which has helped counteract the opposition and resistance they have faced. This is a video showing that the problem still occurs for the poor landless workers in the countryside.
The flag of the MST, the landless movement, flutters over the Fazenda Jabuticaba, a farm in Brazil's northeastern Pernambuco state, where rural workers toil the land. Their calloused hands are proof of how hard they work, and they are proud of it. But there's a problem. The land isn't theirs. These families invaded the farm 6 years ago and expelled the owner. Solano Guides insists he's been abandoned by the state. Earlier last year, 4 of his guards were shot dead and 3 people arrested for the killings.
They're outlaws because if a group invades your property, gives you 24 hours to leave, and on top of that they kill 4 of your guards, what do you call that? A guerrilla group.
This is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on rural workers and farmers in Brazil, and their response to the crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on rural workers and farmers in Brazil, especially those who are already vulnerable due to the poverty and the lack of access to resources. The crisis has exacerbated existing inequalities and exposed the structural weaknesses of the Brazilian agriculture sector, as well as the government's inadequate response to the needs of the rural communities. One of the main challenges faced by the workers during the pandemic has been the lack of access to health care and essential supplies. Many rural areas in Brazil lack adequate healthcare facilities and infrastructure, and workers have struggled to access basic supplies such as masks and hand sanitizers. In response, the MST has set up community kitchens and health clinics, providing free meals and medical care to those in need. They have also organized campaigns to raise awareness about the importance of following safety protocols to prevent the spread of the virus. The landless rural workers movement in Brazil has had significant impact on Brazilian society and politics. One of the most significant achievements of the MST has been the establishment of agricultural settlements, and over 2,000 agricultural settlements at that, which provide landless workers with a means of livelihood and promote sustainable agriculture practices. These settlements have not only provided homes and livelihood for rural workers, but they have also helped to promote alternative models of agriculture that are more sustainable and environmentally friendly. Another important achievement of the MST has been its success in mobilizing and organizing landless rural workers. The movement has brought together millions of landless rural workers in Brazil, providing them with a sense of community and shared purpose. Through its activism and advocacy, the MST has helped raise awareness about the issue of the landless in Brazil and has pressured the government to take action in the land reform. In addition to its impact, the MST has also had an influence on the global stage. The movement has formed alliances with other social movements and organizations all around the world and most importantly in Brazil, in order to build support for its goals and to promote social and economic justice more broadly. The Landless Rural Workers Movement, is a grassroots organization in Brazil that has been fighting for the rights of rural workers and farmers since 1980. Its primary goal is the land reform and to ensure that rural workers have access to land, which they believe is essential for the social and economic justice. The MST has grown significantly and becoming one of the most largest movements in Brazil. Despite the challenges they face, the MST has continued to advocate for land reform and rural workers' rights, and has achieved significant gains in these areas. The MST has had a significant impact on Brazil's society today and its politics, and it works to continue to be relevant to this day, as evidenced by the ongoing problem of the landless among poor workers in the countryside. These are my works cited, and thank you.